Big good one here. Eventually we will like, subscribe, share, help rank up and promote my channel, all that good stuff. So, regarding Ghostbusters Afterlife and Casper possibly sharing a universe due to the cameo that Dan Aykroyd had in the Casper 1995 movie. He actually reprised his role as Ray for a cameo for that film, and it does bring up a lot of questions. Was this intended to be a shared universe and all that? Well, I don't know the answers to any of that. Casper never really had a direct follow-up to the movie. It did spawn a bunch of other movies and I think TV shows, and I don't believe any of that was a real direct follow-up to the movie itself. But it does bring up the interesting question that wasn't intended to be a shared universe. What were the Ghostbusters up to when Ray bolted and didn't finish the job? And is this going to be addressed in Ghostbusters Afterlife, or is it going to be completely overlooked? Is it just one of those things that are just going to be there for the hell of it, for humorous effect? It does bring up a real interesting question, and I'm curious if people would like to see a shared universe with the 1995 movie version of Casper. The way that was done, it was done in a much more mature way than the rest of the Casper stuff that followed. But it was a big hit, and it never got a sequel. And this could be a way to wrap that up, address that, and possibly create that shared universe that they once maybe wanted before, or intended to do and build up before, or maybe it was always just meant to be this one-shot humorous thing, never meant to be taken any further. So during 1995, the Casper movie, Dan Aykroyd made his cameo as his Ghostbuster character, Ray Stantz. If you don't know that, now you do. But does that mean Casper is Ghostbusters canon? It's not like Stranger crossovers haven't taken place on film before. If Freddy can fight Jason and Batman can team up with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that was animated, so we'll give it that. There's really no reason Ghostbusters and Casper can't exist in the same universe, especially now in the age of interconnected movie universes being the goal of every studio. Scoob did it recently. They made the Hanna-Barbera shared universe, and technically, well, that's always been a shared universe. That everybody's doing it, and it would make sense if they were meant to do this. Now, this is Ghostbusters Afterlife. I don't know if it's intended to spawn sequels or anything like that. I do know that it's been talking a lot that it's going to pay tribute and respect to the Ghostbusters original movie and those involved with it, unlike the 2016 release. So Ghostbusters is, of course, one of the most popular multimedia franchises ever, with a fan base that's often too protective for its own good. Not really. That despite only 2 Ghostbuster movies being made to date outside of Paul Feig's 2006 all-female reboot that proved to be extremely divisive, partially for reasons that really shouldn't have mattered. The reasons really mattered that they ignored the male Ghostbusters, they ignored the original team, and just handed everything to these women and gave them all the credit, and they spent the whole movie just trashing males constantly, and the movie was just really sloppy in itself, poorly executed, and just unlikable. And when Ghostbusters Afterlife was announced, they started yelling the exact same nonsense. The actresses from the female reboot started yelling, "Oh, you're just going to ignore us and all that, ignore us like we never existed, not give us any credit or anything like that." Well, they did that to the males in the original male Ghostbusters that are responsible for the huge popular fan base Ghostbusters has in the first place. So next year, the original Ghostbusters franchise receives new life thanks to director Jason Reitman, son of Ivan Reitman, with Ghostbusters Afterlife. The surviving original cast will reprise their roles. And by contrast, Casper never got a sequel, at least a traditional one, although the franchise centered on a tutelar-friendly ghost has continued. But could Casper have been part of the Ghostbusters franchise all along? Aykroyd's cameo makes it entirely possible. So in Casper, a house called Whipstaff Manor, located in the town of Friendship, Maine, is bequeathed to a whiny... So, I don't know if you remember this. A lot of people probably don't remember this, or maybe you do, or maybe you've heard of it, but maybe you haven't heard of it and you're a Ghostbusters fan. Ray makes an actual cameo in here. It's not just Dan Aykroyd. So, what the characters briefly enlist: Ghostbuster Ray Stantz, Dan Aykroyd, now sporting a mustache. He enters, then quickly leaves, telling them, "Who you gonna call? Someone else." It's a funny moment that Casper fans remember fondly, but does that mean Casper is part of Ghostbusters canon? There's no real reason it couldn't be, as canonically no one knows what Ghostbusters have been up to since defeating Ivo in 1991, as depicted the official sanctioned Ghostbusters the video game. They announced plans to open Ghostbusters franchises, but by 4 years later, the original team might not be actively working cases anymore, instead focusing on mentoring the next generation. After that happened, it's not hard to imagine a bored Ray agreeing to make house calls like the one at Whipstaff Manor, as Maine is only about a day's drive from New York. He probably figured it would be an easy one, explaining why he went alone. Clearly, the Ghost Trio were too much for Ray to handle, and it just goes on to say they weren't killing people or doing anything, so, and that he would be ashamed or humiliated and likely keep it to himself and never bring it up. And I'm just very curious if it will actually be addressed in Ghostbusters Afterlife, if it's going to be a thing that's never meant nothing, so they're not going to pay any attention to it, or if it's going to be a thing that's actually addressed and going to be built upon, or at least inserted as an Easter egg in response to that Easter egg, as, yeah, he interacted with Casper. Will Casper actually make an appearance or something, or will there be a reference to that? It'll be very interesting to see. I think it would actually be pretty awesome. I'm not on board with creating this whole shared universe of Ghostbusters and Casper and all that. And they talked about making Ghostbusters like franchise when they were talking about the 2016 that failed miserably and horribly and derailed everything. And thank God that it was such a miserable disaster, because now we can get Ghostbusters Afterlife and get some respect and tribute paid back to original fans, as well as the original cast and original people involved with it. Pat, would you like this to address the whole Casper thing and maybe build a shared universe? Or at least at the very least, just address it with some kind of joke, reference, Easter egg? I'm curious about people's thoughts. If people want a Casper shared universe, you want to see something like Casper interact with Slimer for a cameo scene and just some references or whatever. I'm just curious about this because I'm a Ghostbusters fan, not 2016 Ghostbusters, but I don't think I'd consider myself like a fan, somebody who's die-hard about it, but I do highly appreciate the original two movies and some of the animated stuff, the original animated stuff. And I'm really looking forward to Afterlife and seeing what they can do with it. And also, it does give a finger to the 2016 Ghostbusters film that was given Ghostbusters fans and Ghostbuster cast and everybody the finger in the first place. So You reap what you so like, subscribe, share. Fake Goodwin here. Eventually we will. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. Stay awesome and rock.